Thank you. I like the little Avid snaps. We are an Avid school, so we're used to incorporating all the different Avid strategies as well. I am Carrie Sheehan. I'm gonna try, I did this for like 5 minutes because I didn't know how long it had to play. I have been teaching for 27 years. I have taught all ranges of math. I have started in 7th grade and taught pre-algebra, regular 7th grade, all the way up through 12th grade. I have taught honors. I have taught just your regular. I have taught your inclusion. And what I've done is I have tried to put a little bit together of some of the art that I like to incorporate within my math classroom. Because math is great, but the kids do not think it's great. Trying to teach them polynomials, trying to teach them shapes, trying to teach them angle measures, they are not excited. So I try to bring in different activities that they can do and kind of incorporate and see it beyond just my classroom, okay? So the first thing I've got, and I put a few examples on each of your tables, but the first thing I've got is my geometric town. This is where we are looking at parallel lines with transversals. They start learning about all the different angles that is created and how they apply outside of the classroom. So I have given you a few examples of where I make them create their own town. They get to create their name. They get to create their city around anything that they want. I've had Christmas towns where everything is in the shape of a Christmas something, a tree, an ornament, a present. I've had food towns where everything's in the shape of foods. This is what my kids are given. They are given the criteria of what they have to give. They have to name everything on their map, and they have to name it on their legend because that's how I grade it, so that I know what they're telling me is a parallel line truly is. So the math is there. They have to give me coffee shops that are alternate interior angles. They have to give me gas stations that are alternate exterior angles. So they have to meet the math because that's what I teach. But I give them the freedom to design it the way they want, so that then they're meeting the arts, okay? They get to be creative. They get to be able to design it. And we relate it to their town. We relate it to Blacksburg, and I show them the different roads, and I'm like, okay, you see how these roads never touch. You live this. You see it. You know, looking at a real map, they see that the roads cross and how they cross and where shops are. And they'll say, well, I've got 2 shops that need to both be right here. I said, okay, if you ride down Main Street, do you see 2 stores side by side? Then that's okay. You can put 2 stores side by side on your map, just like you see in the real world. You know, then they'll ask, can I add extra stuff? You can add anything you want to add. All right, with doing this, some of your maps are a little more elaborate than others because at the honors level, I make them do more. So some of them have, I think they have bridges that are there. Some of them have the little turnabouts, and those were my honors high school level classes that did those. My lower level doesn't have quite so much because 8th grade standards are not quite as much. So it really just depends on the level as to what you're doing. Now, I will tell you, I originally found this on Teacher Pay Teacher. I know that is not a place to go, but I modified it to make it me. You know, I modified it to fit my kids. And every year I modify it again. So this is not exactly what you see here unless you have a this year's project, and some of you do. I teach inclusion, so if you have one that's not colored so great, it could have been my inclusion kids who did it. So all levels can do this. Any grade level, any subject, whether it's 8th grade, whether it's Algebra 1, whether it's Algebra 2, your teachers can incorporate this in their lessons. And then there's my little bulletin board where I put all theirs up this year of all their different little cities. And not all of them are 100. Don't get me wrong. Not all of those are perfect, but unless you're me and you graded it, you don't know that it's not perfect and they deserve to be, you know, acknowledged and put up. The next big thing that I do is called a stained glass window. And this is probably my favorite. And once we finish, after I get through the griping of the kids, it's their favorite. So again, I probably got this off of Teacher Pay Teacher to start with, but I have definitely modified it to where it's not going to show up. That's all right. Okay, there's my final project. I can tell you what the rest of it said. This is a 2 to 3 day project that I do with my kids. They start and they have to create me linear equations. They have to create me 4 linear equations with a positive slope, 4 with a negative slope, 4 with a 0, and 4 with an undefined. So that gets me all directions. And once they do that, then they have to complete a table of values. All right, so if you're not mathematical, that means nothing to you, but that brings in my math standards. I then make them, after I grade it to make sure it's right, I make them graph it on graph paper. Once they get it on graph paper, I then decided 1 year coloring paper is great, but a stained glass is not a piece of paper. So I took the old transparencies and I made them trace their lines. So if some of these are faded, I apologize, but these were my last year's from my window. And they stay up from the time we do it till the end of the year. So some are faded a lot because I haven't made it to this year, so I don't have new ones. But I then take all of their stained glass and I piece it together in my windows. And I put border around it. And it brings it to life. You know, we talk about how stained glasses in churches and how stained glasses can be in all sorts of different buildings, and I show them pictures. But some of these kids have never left the little town of Blacksburg. They may not go to church. They ride by, but they've never really seen the beauty of what the light looks like going through it. This shines the light through my window every day, and they love it. Our district office has asked if I do all the windows in our school. I said, I don't think I can quite put that many together, but if you get everybody to do it, well, we could help. I still don't think we could cover the whole school, but we are, incorporating this, and the math teacher working with me this year is also going to incorporate and do it in his room. So we're going to have more, but this is one of the best things that they love to do. And it brings in my math, but then it takes them into the real world and they can see how it's just random pieces that go together and how it creates something beautiful in the end. The next thing that I did, and I also have this on your table, is an octagonal star. And I have you some that are in the shape of an octagon, and I have some that are in the shape of a star, but they all create it. All you have to do is push them, and they slide them together. I do this when I teach polygons, so that my kids can look at what makes an isosceles triangle. How do I know that it's an isosceles triangle? Well, I took a square and I folded it in half. And we look at all the different properties of all the different shapes as we are creating it. So this gets me through my properties of shapes. I have done this in 8th grade as an introduction to geometry. Last year I did it the last week of school, and I just got them ready for geometry for this year. I will do it when I teach this in geometry, and I have also done it at the high school level. They love it. They will take the scraps paper and make little bitty ones. And this just gives them something, but they're learning the concepts in a fun way. I'm not just standing there saying, well, a square has 4 sides that are congruent. A square has 4 right angles. They get to see it. And then they get to see why that square can turn into something else and how that something else was created. And it's fun. Now, it takes a whole day. It takes about 80 minutes if you truly talk it through right and have them fold the paper, cut the paper, and create it themselves. It's a good 80-minute lesson, okay? But they love it. And I let them choose their paper. I lay out all kinds of paper. They get to choose. These are some that I just created and laid out so that you can have them. Yes, sir?
So I'm guessing this is essentially origami.
Yes. Yes, and I could not tell you where I got it because the instructions are written on a piece of notebook paper that I cherish because I don't know where I got it. It was something like this that I went to and they taught it and I wrote down and drew out the pictures for myself and I have just had it ever since.
And you know, just seeing it from 10,000 feet, the community aspect of origami and the history of it, and you know, going back to even telling stories through origami.
Yes, and I have a few other things like I will do with the origami. I will do the tangrams, and I read one of the tangram books. I have found a new one. It's a Three Little Pig with tangrams, which throws the whole Three Little Pigs out of whack because it's not the real Three Little Pigs story, but it's something different and they like it. And then I will make them create the different things as we go. And then at the end, see if they can make a square. And that's usually a good introduction before I ever start polygons because they're getting a little bit of the different types. And we can talk about the different shapes and then we can look at how one creates another.
And you're also introducing that literacy component into that.
I do. If I can fit a kid's book, and I have a lot of them, I Googled one year mathematics and literature and pulled and got a bunch of the different books like Google, and I have the Grandfather Tang, and that used to be the book that I read until I found the little Three Little Pig book that I should have brought it, but I didn't think to. Yes, I have that one as well, yes.
I'm trying to figure out how to slide them and all that. When I did this, we didn't have it where it's all made different shapes.
You just have to kind of push it a little bit from each direction and the corners should pop right out.
No, I'm trying to figure out how you got them all together to make them slide.
Oh, well, I can tell you because I just pulled mine and it just came apart. But,
So I have to share that notebook there.
yes. Well, I have on my presentation except, there you go. I put on here. So it has the pictures, it has the detail of how it all goes together. I'm not sure how they, and it's a 2-page, there's the second page. Like I said, this is notebook paper, so I scanned this in here because I was at a conference and I wrote it down and I've loved it. But once you get it put together, they just slide in and you just take the little end pieces and clip it around. And then it will just hold it. You just have to make sure you don't clip over the piece there, which sometimes they do. And they'll say, mine don't work. And so I just have to go and say, well, you've trapped it. You have to untrap the pieces. But it just slides in and then you just fold the little corners down. It takes 8 pieces, so you either have to have all the same, which I did some all the same, 2 of one kind, or 4 different kinds that you like to go together. And so I let them choose. You know, you can either choose 8 of the same, 4 of 2 kind, or 2 of 4 different types of paper, whatever you want. So then that way it looks the way they want it to look. And I can go back to any of the others if you need anything from there.
So with these activities too, how much vocabulary is integrated?
Ooh, it really depends. The cities, you're looking at, with the cities, in 8th grade, my kids are introduced to parallel lines, transversals, and then there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 different vocabulary words, angle measures that they have to do. The alternate interior, exterior, and that sort of thing. And I give them a rubric, which I put on the back, that tells them how I'm going to grade it. And some of yours may have the rubric glued to the back. Again, it just depends on how old it is as to whether or not the rubric got glued to it or not. But it depends on the topic that we're covering as to how much new vocabulary words that they're getting. this, probably not as much, but they're learning to put the square with the isosceles triangle and a right triangle, and then how it turns into a parallelogram. And they'll see a trapezoid within there. So they're looking at how one shape can create all these others just by some folds, but not all of it is necessarily new.
And that doesn't necessarily mean it's not a good thing, because again, that reinforcement of that academic language that they're gonna see
Oh,
in
yes.
those assessments can be really critical. And then if they, as part of the rubric, they have to describe why they chose what they chose. They can, I picked the, and I apologize, I'm not a math person beyond kindergarten. But, I put the transverse line here, I put this line here for this reason.
Well, the biggest thing is when I'm looking at that is whether or not it meets that definition. They don't necessarily have to explain to me why they put it where, because they get to choose. I'm like, you ride down a road and it intersects other roads, you're going down a transversal. But they have to understand what the vocabulary means in order to place their different stores, shops in the right places on their roads. But they get to be creative as far as figuring out what type of city they want. It's not Blacksburg. It's anything you want it to be. So you have some that are YouTubes. You have some that are Christmas Town. You have some that are food, because some just say, I like to eat. Okay, show me that. I let them work in pairs, or they can choose to be individual. I have some who choose to do everything on their own. But they do get to work in pairs if they choose, so that they can create their city together. It's just kind of up to them. This is not so much vocabulary. Well, I guess it is, because they have to know what a positive slope and a negative slope looks like, but they have to be able to write linear equations, which is a big 8th grade Algebra 1 standard. And depending on the level, if it's a lower level class, I may give them the equations and they just have to create me the table and the graph. But my higher level, they have to create their own. And theirs can't match somebody else's or they don't get credit.
And again, it goes back to the opportunity to explain your thinking. And how many times, especially on state level assessments or
There it is.
Advanced assessments, end of course assessments, you have to be able to explain your thinking. So
Oh, yeah.
It just again, it gives them another opportunity to do that.
Well, I think it lends itself to some other cross-curricular work as well. Like with her saying lost windows, that could easily go into like a social studies lesson. Same thing with the origami, if you wanted to put that into a science lesson as far as like what NASA is doing, like right now with how they're using origami to repackage how they put things into space. So it has some really, really great potential for all of those things as well, which can also grow.
And again, those cross curricular connections are where, again, the arts can be such a great conduit for, multiple subject areas.
Where, do you have this saved somewhere?
Do I?
On, for just later references? Or
I do not know if they have a place that they are uploading. I will ask if there's somewhere that they're kind of uploading. So then, because I put all the different, so like that was, what goes with, but I can ask them if they have a place. I'm sure they probably do.
I thought they said this morning that this stuff would be, because they were talking about the canceled one, that the slides would still be available. So I'm guessing.
I haven't sent it to them yet, but I can. And ask them if they have a place that they can upload and look.
But your scan code takes you to the presentation, right?
No, that just signs you in.
That just allows you in.
That just signs y'all in, saying that you came.
I have a question.
Yes.
You were talking about the three little pigs. What did you say the three little, was it?
I think it's the Three Little Pigs and the Big Bad Wolf. What I can tell you is not your normal Three Little Pigs. Like he eats some of the pigs, so don't read it to the little kids because he literally eats the pigs. So like the two who don't build their house, he eats them because they're like, that is not Three Little Pigs. I said, this is the newer version, I guess. This is I mean, they do, but they have to make it's a tangram book.
Tangram is what you said.
It's a tangram.
Tangram.
Yes.
Okay. Making sure I-
It is making tangrams. And that there's Grandfather Tang, but they don't love Grandfather Tang. So when I found this other one, they really liked it. And so,
Tangram, and I was like, what was the word that she said?
yes, that is it right there.
Oh, sorry. It disappeared on my Goodreads.
Is it the Three Little Pigs and the Big Bad Wolf? Was that
Yeah,
it?
it's called the Three Pigs, One Wolf, Seven Magic Shapes.
There you go. 3 pigs, 1 wolf, and 7 magic shapes. I knew it was the Three Little Pigs, but it was a very different version of it. So do not read it to the little kids. But the middle school, they love it. All right. The other thing, I didn't write this up because I just kind of threw a few other things out there that my kids have done, which basically goes to the higher level because I taught Algebra 1 for years. So I had them describe like how to factor polynomials and let them choose their method. So some of you have FOIL method, some of you have box method, but there are some different little things that they have done. I let them create however they wanted to create it. You had to give me your own example. They had to create their own problem. They could not use a problem that I had used. So they created their problem, they created their method that they wanted to use. They got to create how they displayed it, how they explained it, because if they can explain it and they can show it to me, then they understand it. So
Amazing, like hang that on the wall for like future kids.
those are, and I had some really good ones. And then I think there's some other things that I threw out there. So this was solving systems. So they had to solve systems of equations. They had to give the different steps of how to solve it. They had to explain how to do it. And I said, explain it in your words. I mean, you're describing this to your friends. Tell them what they need to do the way you would tell it to somebody sitting beside you, your neighbor. So there are some different little things because I like to try to make it as creative as I can because in the most cases, my kids come to me and say, I'm not good at math. I can't do math. And I'm like, okay, we can. What's 1 + 1? They'll say 2. You did math. Okay, let's move on. We can do a little bit harder now. And so just trying to bring in things that they enjoy. So we dance. You know, I will dance in a minute. I have kicked my shoe into the ceiling multiple times as I am dancing out how to solve equations. Well, we kicked that X out. We don't like it anymore. My shoe goes flying through the air. I said, I guess y'all are awake now. So let's go. Moving on. So I try to throw in as many different things as I can just to keep them involved and to make them want to do it. If there's a song that goes with it, you know, I think it's Blondie, the one that goes one way or another. Okay, well, when I teach inequalities and they're doing compound inequalities, those ors, you are one way or another. And we sing it. I mean, anything you can put out there.
They might be giants for those of you who are nerds in the 90s. They put out a whole kids album called Here Come the 1, 2, 3s. Now it's usually for the younger kids, but there are some really like kind of upper grade math things by They Might Be Giants, and it's just it's just cool. It's again, there is a ton of kids music that is connected, and it's not the lame stuff. It's actually pretty cool. But to be able to introduce
And they love it.
Yeah.
They love to be able, and they'll tell you they don't, especially middle school. We got to dance? Yes, you do.
Yes, you do.
Get up. Let's go. You know, I need you out of your seat because otherwise you're going to sleep. But they love doing that. They love being able to get creative, and they'll say, I can do anything I want. Well, I like to play Call of Duty. I was like, well, you can't put anything ugly on it, and everybody has to be dressed, because I don't think everybody is dressed on those video games. I don't play them, but everybody has to be board appropriate. But yes, you can choose the names. You can choose cities from there. Take what you love and put it into my work. That's what I look for. And they get excited. They love it. Is there any other questions? Is there anything? I know I've talked a lot.
Will you share your email just in case they don't share?
Yes.
And then we can email you?
Do I know how to get this up here to do that? I did not put that in here. But yes, let's see. That might, it put .org at the end, but I'll just try to make it big enough but not mess up the other. But yes, and I'll share anything. If there's anything, I mean, I download everything I have to anybody. So if there's anything you go, ooh, is there something fun? Or if your teachers, I know some said, well, we're trying to integrate it and I'm trying to get my other teachers on board. If they want to email and say, this is what I'm teaching, what do you got? I don't make for myself. I mean, I will give it to anybody, because if my kids learn from it, your kids will learn from it. I mean, that's just my philosophy.
Thank you for that.
So I'm not greedy with my stuff, ever. And I will tell you, if I took it from somewhere else and revamped it, and I apologize to whoever I took it from, but it was good and I liked it, so I borrowed it and then I just revamped it to make it mine. Well, I appreciate you coming.